is a different platform which allows it to be manufactured much more quickly.
Okay. So you made a comment about a live vaccine. So this vaccine is not a live vaccine.
No, it is not.
Okay.
This is a viral vector medium that is used. So you have a vector like a vehicle that you go into. It's a transporter, and this is a innocuous. This vector, viral vector, can't do anything. No problems at all. And you put the material into it, which cannot replicate either, and it's given to us via injection, and we mount the appropriate immune response.
Okay, thank you so much. That was a very common question. Is it a live vaccine? Some other questions, some other practical questions. Patients wanted to know, is there a cost to this?
Well, there's really a cost to everything, but guess what? The vaccines are being offered to Jamaicans free of cost.
Okay.
And they're not mandatory. We are recommending strongly and highly that you take the vaccine. If you are to get the AstraZeneca vaccine, it's 2 doses, and both doses will be absolutely free to every single Jamaican.
Okay, that's great. So they are free. Now, Dr. Ennis, who is considered a priority group for this vaccine and why?
Okay, so we look at the evidence.
Okay.
The pandemic has been with us for about a year, just about a year.
Right.
And who are the persons who are dying? It is the elderly, persons with comorbid conditions. Okay. So you're obese, you're hypertensive, diabetics, you're asthmatics. So older persons over 60 years old don't do so well. Okay. And then you look at persons who are highly exposed. Okay. So our healthcare workers who are treating with and directly dealing with persons who have COVID. Then we have our non-healthcare frontline workers. We have the JDF, the JCF. They are also out there with us trying to man the communities and keep everybody safe. So those are the persons that form the priority group or the most vulnerable. And of course, we have to inoculate our government. Without a government, in the same way, without a healthcare system, then the country is going to, be in chaos. Mm-hmm. So those are the persons, the elderly, our healthcare workers, our non-health frontline workers, persons in infirmaries, persons in our nursing homes, persons in our penal institutions. And you can understand why these persons are included first, because remember, they can't all wear masks. They don't have the capacity sometimes to wash their hands. And guess what? Certainly, they cannot socially distance. Can you imagine in the prison, everybody is 6 feet away from each other? That doesn't happen. So understandably so, those persons will have to fall into the first group of persons to be vaccinated.
Right. So you listed some of the comorbidities. At this time, is lupus one of the comorbidities that would place someone in a priority group?
Yes, they have an illness, and we know that persons who have any of these conditions, even this autoimmune condition, once they contract the COVID virus, they do much worse than their counterpart who don't have any of these conditions. So it is recommended that they be offered the COVID-19 vaccine.
Okay. So, that brings me to another question that was asked, which I can address, which is how does COVID-19 affect lupus patients? Now, lupus patients are a very heterogeneous group, and really how it could affect patients with lupus depends on various things. It depends on the severity of disease activity, and of course, some of the medications that you are on. There are some immunosuppressants that do place you at a higher risk of severe disease were you to contract COVID-19. Okay, so that was another thing that came up. Now, Dr. Ennis, do we know how long we'll be protected if we get the vaccine or if we'll need a booster? I know there are 2 doses, but thereafter?
Well, we don't know. Not enough time has passed as yet.
Right.
There are some studies that have started now, and they're saying that it's possible, not sure yet, but it's possible that we might need to get the vaccine in a similar way that we get the influenza vaccine on an annual basis. But we're not there just yet.
Right.
We're at the point where we really only need 2 doses for protection at this time. And of course, we're following the evidence, following the data to see if we will need a booster shot.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Another question: which of the 3 vaccines would be recommended for persons with autoimmune diseases? I could take this one. Now, there's some guidelines laid out for us by the American College of Rheumatology. And what they say is that we don't have any data to say that one is more efficacious than another in patients who have autoimmune diseases. So what we do recommend is that you take the one that is available to you, okay? Which leads me into the next question I got, which is, should patients with autoimmune diseases take this vaccine? And we are saying yes.
The answer is yes. Absolutely.
It's a resounding yes. Yeah. All right. Now, one of the concerns is, will the vaccine interact with any of the medications or the infusions being taken by lupus patients? We don't have any data to say that it will interact with any of the medications. Now, we do encourage you to speak with your rheumatologist because we may have to adjust the schedule of some of the medications that you take, especially if you are on an infusion, okay? So there's that recommendation to be in constant communication with your healthcare provider. Okay, so another question that came up is, I've always heard that not all vaccines can be taken by lupus patients because we are immunocompromised. Is the COVID vaccine one that is suitable for lupus patients?
I think that's a yes too, because I think the fear was for live vaccines for those persons. And remember, we said this is not one of those.
Okay. Next question. What is the advice regarding taking the vaccination for the COVID-19 virus if you're experiencing a lupus flare? This is a very good question. And again, this is one of those questions that will have to be addressed in consultation with your rheumatologist. I think it will depend on the symptoms and the severity of the flare that you're having, okay? Now, how can lupus patients register to get the vaccine once it becomes available, Dr. Ennis?
So there are various methods that you can use to register. If you fall into the group, so you have a severe illness, a comorbidity depending on your age, then you can register by making contact with your health department. We're going to be publishing how you can register. One of the ways is to call the 1-888 One Love number, which will go to a call center, which we are setting up to take to give you registration details.
Can you remind us of that number?
It's the 1-888 One Love number. That is the number that will be used for registration via the BPOs. Then we have registration straight at the health department. you can also advise your private doctor if you wish to get the vaccine, and your private doctor through the medical association will direct your details to the health department. We are also going to have our web-based registration coming up in short order. But
Okay.
of course, everybody will be advised as to, what are the options for registering.
It's a work in progress.
Absolutely.
All right. Now, do we know if this vaccine has been tested specifically on lupus patients?
So remember now that in clinical trials, it is healthy persons that are usually in the trials. And that was the same thing that prevailed for this vaccine. And it was only after the vaccines have gone into our phase 4 trials, where millions of persons have received the vaccines, that we start doing it on persons who have certain illnesses.
Right.
So luckily, well, I don't know if it's luckily, but we're in a pandemic. So we have billions of persons now who are affected and taking the vaccine. So about 4 weeks ago, they actually started to look at persons with autoimmune conditions in particular now. So in short order, we should be getting some information on these persons, how they react to the vaccine.
Okay, and that's fantastic news. And just to read a statement regarding this from the American College, is that even though we may not have an abundance of evidence about the mRNA COVID-19 vaccine in patients with autoimmune diseases, they say there's no reason to expect vaccine harms will trump expected COVID-19 benefits. So remember, everything is a risk-benefit ratio, okay? And at this point, we do think that the benefits of taking the vaccine outweigh the risks of contracting this virus. So our recommendation is, if you do have an autoimmune disease, that you should take this vaccine. Okay, I'm just going to check if there are any other late questions that we didn't cover from our Facebook group. And I think that we had covered most of them. Lots of the questions maybe worded differently, but we've addressed them nonetheless. So we are almost at the end. I would like to thank Dr. Ennis for her time. Thank you for the clarification and the information that you brought today.
You are more than welcome. I hope I was able to give some information that would allay some fears, and persons would, feel motivated to actually take this vaccine, because it will protect you, and it will protect others around you.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Everyone, of course, you are aware that we are in a surge. So just encouraging everyone to social distance, wear your mask, wash your hands, and that is it for this evening. Stay safe, and please stay tuned to our next session of Ask
before you
yes.
Before you tune out, there's one question in the chat
that
I think we should answer. Yes, it's about the side effects of AstraZeneca specifically.
Oh, a very important question.
Very important, I think. So our side effects are really categorized in 3 by AstraZeneca. One is those effects that occur in more than 1 in 10 persons. And that's when you get the pain at the injection site, the redness, you can get a fever, you can get a little malaise or tired, you feel a little less, and then you have those that occur in 1 in 10 persons now. And that is where you get the lump at the injection site, you know, so the arm feel a little bit off. And then you get some flu-like symptoms. In another set, 1 in 100 persons, you may get some abdominal pain, you may
Okay.
get some vomiting,
Right.
and you can get a rash. Now, all of these things usually disappear within 48 hours. If you are very, very, very unfortunate, it will last for 72 hours. So it's
Okay.
very transient, and we should all remember that this kind of response is a good thing, even though it makes us feel sick. It's a very good thing because it is showing us that our body is actually producing the antibodies and responding to the antigen that came into our bodies. So those are the side effects that have been noted with AstraZeneca. And we continue to, you know, again, watch the science to see if there's anything else. But so far, those are the common ones noted
Right.
and
And
seen.
Dr. Ennis, are these side effects unusual for general vaccinations? The ones that, you know, we're used to?
Absolutely not. It's the
Okay.
same feeling because it is telling us that our body is responding in the right way. And remember when we were children and our parents, they used to tell us to take uh, Panadol after, you know, make sure you have Panadol to give the child after you get the vaccine
Yes.
because that's, you know, it's the same thing. Nothing unusual though.
Nothing unusual. Okay. Thank
So
you.
back over to you.
Okay. Thank you for catching me there. I was going to miss that important question. So our next session, everyone, for Ask the Expert will be lupus and the bone. So please stay tuned for that. All right. Stay safe. Thank you, Dr. Ennis. Have a good evening.
Thank you too. Have a good evening, everyone.